Hey, you know what today is. Sisterhood check-in coming right up at 10 p.m. Make sure you set your clocks, get your popcorn, get your pen and paper, call up your girlfriends, and tell them Sisterhood check-in is about to start. See you in a few minutes.
Welcome to Sisterhood Check-In. I'm your author and coach, Nadira Lewis, and it is Friday. I'm excited that you have taken the time to join me on this Friday here with my special guest, Dawn Fontaine. And we're going to be talking about some amazing things, some awesome stuff that God is doing in her life. She's come through a lot, and and I can't wait for her to be able to share her testimonial and her journey on where she got to where she is today. If you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you click the subscribe button, hit the notification button, so that you can be notified every time we upload a new video. If you are watching us via Facebook, make sure you click like and share if you are blessed by the content that you have been receiving this far. So thank you guys again for joining me each and every Friday. If you are watching from, if this is your first time watching Sisterhood Check-In, let me know where you're watching from. Put it in the comments, what state you're watching from, and let us know what interests you, what caused you to watch our broadcast, who referred you, what good, amazing news that you may have heard about our broadcast. So call up your girlfriends and let them know Sisterhood Check-In is on the air. So we're going to watch a quick video, and when we get back, our next guest you'll see is that of my amazing friend Dawn. And we are back here with, it looks like I lost my guest. She'll be back hopefully in a few minutes. But we are back with Sisterhood Check-In, and we have my amazing guest, Dawn Fontaine, just waiting for her to get back. We must have had some issues which caused her to be disconnected, but she will be back soon. So while we're waiting on her, I want to give you a little bit of information about Dawn and how Dawn and I got to know each other. Dawn and I have known each other since I was a little girl. I may have been maybe 10 years old. And Dawn and I were part of the same ministry. We were part of the same choir, and we had a lot going on. So, welcome back, Dawn. I was giving them a little history of how we got to know each other before you came back on.
Girl, I don't know what happened. It just went out. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's fine. But I was giving them a little bit background and letting them know how we were we grew up together in the church, and how we were a part of the same choir, and we have so many amazing stories. And we'll get the chance to talk about that. But Dawn, I want you to share with our listening audience. Talk to us about, I know who Dawn was at that period of time in our life. I've gotten to know you for many, many years. But talk to my audience and let us know about you. How did you get to where you are today?
So, there's one thing you didn't know about me, that I dealt with depression.
Mm-hmm.
So even as a child, so we first realized that when I was 17. So, when I was 17, I was pregnant with my oldest child, and just being a senior in high school, the daughter of a reverend, and just trying to manage all of that young in a relationship, thinking you grown and we in love, we gonna be together forever, all of that good stuff. And I found it being overwhelming. And I found, when I look back at it now, I guess I just felt like I was trying to please too many people. And it was too heavy for me. And so I remember that Valentine's weekend, I was home, and situation happened, and I just was like at my lowest point, and I felt I was embarrassed by my situation. I was just really struggling. And so I can remember praying, because we grew up in church, we grew up on the choir and going to Sunday school and the junior usher board and all of that jazz. So I remember praying to God, and saying to him that it was, we were taught that if you committed suicide, you were going to hell, but that I believe that that's what I deserve to do. And so I took some pills. I took every daggone pill in the house. I took Tylenols, hydrocodone, just a whole bunch of a mix of different things. I wrote 3 letters. I wrote a letter to my mother, telling her that I love her, and apologizing, and feeling like I was in an embarrassment. I wrote a letter to my brother, telling him that I love him and thanking him for his support. And I wrote a letter to my boyfriend at the time, again, telling him that I love him and appreciated his support. And I called a girlfriend of mine who was still really close friends with. Her name is well, at the time she was Sandana Bryant. She's Sandana Jones now. And I called her, and I just, told her that I appreciated who she was, in my life, and our friendship. But I never mentioned to anybody that I had taken any pills or anything at this point. And, and I was just crying, just sobbing, like, not hysterically crying, but just like I just couldn't stop sobbing. And I took the 3 letters, and there was my mother had, the nightstands in the bedrooms, and she never hardly went into that nightstand drawer. So I put the letters there, just knowing that she would eventually find them. Not I never thought she would find them right away, but I knew that she would eventually find them. My boyfriend came over that night, and my brother knew I was going through something, so he let him come upstairs in my room, which he never did, And, we had the door open, and I just kind of laid in his arms and I cried myself to sleep. And when I woke up, I was in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. So God is amazing, and he knows everything and everything in his timing. So my brother just happened to get a phone call from his girlfriend, and instead of taking the call in his room, he took it in my mom's room. And while he was on the phone, decided he wanted to doodle. So what did he do? He looked in that drawer, drawer to find just a piece of paper and a pen to find something to doodle, and saw the letters and called 911. So I was pregnant at the time, like I said, with my oldest child, and nothing. He had no issues, no problems mentally, physically, anything of that nature. And so I worked with a little, very little counseling then, and worked through it, and didn't deal with any deep depression, hadn't, since then. So, just struggle with some issues, just being a single mom, fast forward, raising children, had 7 children, was a single mother. One gentleman I had four children with in that relationship, that relationship was violent. So we had physical altercations throughout that time. I can remember, having on heels outside and him like sweeping me, like right, my feet up in the air, like, a wrestling move. And not, his mother was aware of the abuse, but my family was not. So I just had one girlfriend who lived right next door to me who was aware of those things that were going on in our relationship. And one day I had a black eye. And so she told my brother, and my brother addressed him, and let's just say we never had another we never had another incident. The funny thing is, while I was in that relationship, never really saw it as domestic violence while I was in it. While I was in it, we just fought. Never, like, cause me, like, I'm not gonna be in a domestic pish posh, that ain't happening to me,
right.
Type of thing. So never really saw it as that until I got out of it and looked back at it. And I got into that relationship very young. I was 19 years old. So I was very young when I entered into that relationship, and he was like 7, 8 years older than me. So I remember my mother telling me, he's too old for you. And I'm like, huh, I'm mature. Whatever you mean? No, I was green. And that's what I was. I was green. And so, continue to raise my children, child support in the system, but not receiving any. So if I looked up and somebody got pulled over at a traffic stop, or how they do the license checks and those type of things, then I would get some support. But raised my children on my own with God. So I thank God for the foundation that I had with him as a child. And they tell you to train up a child in the way he should go. When he gets old, he will never depart from it. And so I always knew where to go back to. So God always blessed me with a roof over my head. We've always had decent places to live, even being a single parent with 7 children. I was able to give my children the best that I could give them. My only regret is that I didn't have the opportunity to have them participate in a lot of recreational activities, only because as a single parent, without that additional financial support, I was working. So even if I could afford the money for the activity, I didn't have I didn't have the time to take them, and I didn't have the support
Right.
um for for them to go, because I'm in North Carolina now. And when I moved to North Carolina, I moved down here with my best friend. And then that next year she moved back to Jersey. So
Mhm.
I was in a state alone.
Mhm.
And my mom was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and my brother was in Georgia, and the rest of the family was in New Jersey. So I didn't have the funds to move back. I took a buyout in my job and relocated down here. So I didn't have the financial ability to move everybody back. So just continued to raise them, and of course had some struggles. And um as I continue through, just continue to raise them with the support of God. Again, still roof over our heads, and a decent place. And I believe they are decent human beings, which is more than I could ask for these days with the way people are.
Yes.
Unfortunately,
Yes.
they have good hearts. They're good children. So, who are adults now. My oldest is 34 and the baby is 22.
Okay.
So, in raising them, and again, could just continue to have some struggles. Well, I got married in 2015, and in that relationship, we started to struggle. So we started to struggle in that relationship, and then I found out about some abuse that had happened in the past. And things just start piling on me, and I was dealing with things, and started to feel myself in that dark spot that I hadn't felt since I was 17 years old.
Mm.
Only now I'm a little more educated. I've learned that my grandmother, my mother's mother, dealt with depression. I learned that that it wasn't that depression is not that it's not that you're not strong enough in who you are in God. People will tell you, just pray it away, and just any mental health issue for that matter. So what I've learned about mental health issues is that it's one of three things. They're either biological, right? Physical. um there is either a spiritual battle, and strictly that, or it's a combination of the two. And what we have to do is become educated. We have to educate ourselves, and to determine where it is, what it is. We also have to realize that God has gifted people with different talents, right? And so why would he give a therapist the talent to be that, or a counselor, or um someone the mind to create medication that can assist people, if there wasn't going to be a need for it? So I had to I got to a point where I was really, really low, recognized it, and I had to make a decision to pop off my superwoman cape, you know, fold it up, and seek some assistance. And so I went, and that's what I did. And so I went to the local emergency room, and just told them where I was, that I was having suicidal thoughts, and just took it from there. So um I end they at first it was going to be 3 days, and then it was 7 days. So it ended up being 7 days. And while in there, I got some tools to manage through some things and work through some things. It's one thing for someone to say they don't want to be here, right? So that's a clue that maybe they're dealing with some depression. But it's another thing for someone to have a plan. So if you have a loved one who has a plan of how they would or could or thought of or had a dream of doing it this way, you really need to intervene. Sometimes people may behave in a way that's just a way to attempt to get attention. But then there's other people who are really serious about feeling like they don't want to be here, and so they might not say, like, they might do like I did and not say anything to anyone. They might not go to someone and say, I'm going to go home and take some pills, or I want to hang myself or whatever, it may be. They may not verbalize that. So if someone verbalizes it, sure, there's an opportunity to come in and assist, but we have to realize that we don't even know what mental illness looks like, what emotional abuse looks like. We don't know what like, you can't see it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't look at a person and know whether they have it together or not, because they can look like they have it together and it can be falling apart in the inside. So you just want to make yourself available to people when you can. And one thing I've been telling people lately when I talk to them is, like, and especially, I can't stand these nasty folks in customer service. Like, they didn't apply for the job, right? They act like somebody went and snatched them out their bed and put them in a McDonald's window or at the front office or whatever. But it's like, you're dealing with people, and you have no idea what someone is going through. And you can be somebody's breakthrough or somebody's breakdown. And you never want to be somebody's breakdown. I cannot hear you.
First of all, I want to applaud you for having the courage to be able to get through what you went through, because it takes a lot of faith and it takes courage to do that. It takes courage to admit that you're dealing with things, especially with us as women. When we are taught, we're taught first to be strong, be strong, so sometimes in the desire and to be strong, we forget to be human too,
Exactly.
and so just hearing that just really just takes me back to, remember I've fought depression many times, and what people don't understand is that you can look one way externally and you can be feeling like you're falling apart internally. And what I learned to do is, during the time of my depressions, I really had to lean into my relationship with God. I really had to really pull on the spirit of God to really help me through it. And when there are times when I just couldn't get through it and didn't have the strength, He placed people around me, to pray for me and to help me through the process of that. So having a support system is important. I didn't have a whole lot of support system in terms of what, I have 6 children. So I definitely understand, my oldest is 30, about to be 30, and my youngest is 5. But what I did do is I had to carry that strong woman mindset because of being married and divorced and going through abuse. You have to you're in survival mode. So it can be pretty depressing to think about the things that you're going through, just to try to, and some people will look at me and be like, well, you the one to decide to do this. Well, you the one that was in that relationship, or you the one, and that would just literally sink me even more. Well, ain't nobody told you to have all those kids. Well, ain't nobody told you to do all that. And it would make me feel horrible. And it was like stomping me down. So, and I said that because when you mentioned the customer service thing, you don't know, words have power. And sometimes if you don't have anything good to say, it's best to just not say anything. And sometimes what we think is giving advice is really us just being carnal and not really knowing, the power behind the words that you speak to somebody. Because I was the type of person, I wouldn't show it externally. I would look fine, but inside I was just crushed. I was dying on the inside because I felt like a failure in so many areas of my life because I didn't want to hear the I told you so's about my abusive relationship. I didn't want to feel any worse than I was already feeling. So it was easier for me to disconnect. But the problem in disconnecting, thinking that disconnecting was going to put me in a safe zone, what it did was it started out as a safe zone and then it went into a wall. And I started to barricade myself in with the intent of just trying to create a safe zone, because I wanted a place of refuge to get away from everything, not realizing that me pulling back from people was really causing me to drown even more. And unless you had a spirit of discernment or unless you was around me, you wouldn't know. You would think I was just fine and I was just being quiet. But I was sinking. And I thank God for the people that he put in my life that was just like, you know what? They would just come to me sometimes and just be like, I know you're dealing with a lot. Just hang in there. And one of my friends said to me, I'll never forget it. And she said, Nadira, there are some battles you are just going to have to do alone. You can have all the support around you, but they're not going to be around you every single day, 24 hours a day. You have got to develop the fortitude and the faith and trust God to work things out. You're going to have to learn how to pray. And when nobody else is around, you're going to have to learn how to depend on God when the enemy is staring you down your throat. You're going to have to learn how to fight the fight of faith. To me, I didn't want to hear all that because I just wanted out. You get to a point where sometimes you go through things, you're just like, look, I just want out by any means necessary. I don't care. Just I want out. Even if that means taking myself out. I just want out. I just want out. And that's what the enemy does. He tries to get us to make decisions quickly, right? Because he knows that if we can make a decision quickly in our ignorance of thinking that this is going to help us escape out of the situation, not realizing that now I didn't even really care about, I wasn't even thinking about whether I was going to go to hell or not. I just want out. I just wanted out, however that was going to be. And so what happened was it helped to have people that were praying and saying, hey, not giving me that religious hocus pocus stuff, but just coming up to me and saying, look, Nadira, we have an adversary. This is what it is. And you're going to have to fight in prayer and you're going to have to trust God and you're going to have to do this. And they gave me practical things to do. Like, this is what you need to do. And at first it was just like, I don't have the strength, because sometimes we don't have the strength to fight another battle, let alone telling us that we're going to have to do it alone. So I definitely understand, where you were in terms of dealing with depression. And I tell people all the time, it's not something, depression is not something you just do like an activity and then it's gone away the next day. It's moment to moment. It's a moment to moment fight where you're constantly having to make a decision to do and to get beyond the state of mind. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. So, some people just have situations in their life that lead them to feel depressed, right? But then there are others who biologically just have things that occur within their body that causes them to be depressed. And so it may look like laziness,
Right.
it may look like negativity. It may look like low self-esteem. So you can't really put your finger on it. And it's, and sometimes, unfortunately, you go to God in prayer and you can be faithful and all of those things, but you just need some additional support. I'm finding in our Black community, like, they don't talk about therapy.
Right.
They don't say, let's find a counselor that is specific in this area who may be able to help you, to give you some tools to cope, along with
What you're doing, right?
Along with God and his support through this to carry you, to lead you and guide you, so that you have the knowledge, and have wisdom. And wisdom is simply applying the knowledge. Then we have to be careful not to just judge people
Right.
so
Right.
easily. I'm finding that there are so many, and speaking with a lot of young women, God seems to lead me towards young women, and I'm finding that things happen, and we make decisions,
Mm-hmm.
and then our first question is, what's wrong with you? And
Mm,
that shouldn't be the question. The question should be, what happened to you? what's
mm,
what's going on with you? Like, so if we stop and we just even change that one question,
mm-hmm.
we'll be able to help more people. I find that we as Christians are
Very, very.
very judgmental, so
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to be transparent.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to be a minister and say, I'm dealing with depression, because what's wrong with you? Then do you know the word of God? Like you say, are you applying it to your life? Or you start to get, it's so easy to be questioned and doubted, and um belittled in a sense. So it's people don't really want to express those things that they're really going through and that they're dealing with, because they just don't want to have to put themselves out there, be vulnerable, and then be crushed. But we have to have our hearts open to receive, because it's easy for people to do like you did, to put up a wall. God is relational. He, just like he wants a relationship with us, he wants us to have relationships with others. That's
Right,
why he wants us to fellowship.
right,
Satan wants us to get along,
right,
because those things that we keep in secret and hide, they won't get dealt with.
right.
So Satan wants us alone so that he can whisper in our ear the lies, and then
Mm,
we won't have anyone around us to tell us that they're lies,
right,
because we
right,
may be strong enough to see in the beginning that that's a lie.
right.
Satan, that's a lie, that's a lie, that's a lie. But when you get by yourself and it's getting beat into you, like in your head and in your ear, and you just, and you're alone,
Yeah.
then you start to think, well, maybe that is the truth. And so it's very important to have people in your circle who can pray for you, who can encourage you, who can correct you. It's important for you to be open to correction and
Mm,
to be open to encouragement. I have a strong foundation of friends, so I lean on them. I lean on them, and they help get me through and keep me through. And at 52 years old, I graduated from high school in June. And August, I had my first child. So I have been a mother for a large majority of my life.
mm-hmm.
And then I became a wife. And then my baby moved out. My 22, she's 22, she's out on her own. And so now I got to figure out who I am beyond the mother, who I am
Mm,
beyond the wife. Like, who am I? What
right.
do I like to do? What don't I like to do? What are my boundaries? Because I find too, that in trying to
Mm,
please people, you can get lost,
yes,
and
absolutely.
that can contribute to your depression. And so now you got to put up boundaries, and you got to determine what your boundaries are. And for me, I was making boundaries, but I was making a chain link fence. And so,
Mm,
you know how you can lean the poster up, but you can lean against that chain link fence and kind of push your way through to the boundaries. And what I needed to do was put up a 6-foot privacy fence.
mm.
This is the line. You can't toe it. And stand firm on
That's
that.
good. That's really good.
And I can't assume that you know my boundaries, because my boundaries are my preferences. And you don't necessarily know my preferences. And maybe someone else doesn't have the same preference. So you can do that with them, but no, you cannot do that with me.
Wow. That is really good. Like, I like that. Putting up, I love that analogy that you use. That's just a real moment, you know. And I think what happens is when, especially with me, I was the same way. A mother at 17, you know, married most of my life and a mom most of my life. And now, you know, I think that's what I was explaining to my children growing up, is that the importance of taking time out and really getting a chance to get to know you and getting to the point to discover who you are. Because what happens is we get so eager to enter into these relationships and become somebody's wife and mother that we haven't even had a chance to get to know who we are first.
Yes.
Then you begin to conform to wherever your environment is at that time. So if you're a teenage mom, then you conform to being a teenage mother. If you're married at that time, you conform to being a wife. And you don't really, and it's not until your kids are grown that you look back and you be like, wow, who am I? You know, I think it's good to take time to really, even if you are watching and you are a teen mom, we're not saying that you don't know yourself, but even as a teen mom, take some time and really get to know, while you're mothering that child, while you're being a wife at a young age, take some time to discover some things about what you like to do. And as you're raising your child and as you're rearing your children in your home, take time and create activities and things that you like to do, so that you don't lose yourself by the time your kids are old and you're looking around and go, who am I? You know, because depression can sink in at that time too. But we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna continue with Dawn. And Dawn, I want you to share with our audience. I want you to share like some things that the family and support systems give us, some tips on what we can do when we notice or sense, when we come back after the commercial break, of what we can do to help with people that we might be sensing that may be dealing with depression. Will you do that?
Yes, certainly.
Okay, we'll be right back. Huh?
I said I certainly will. Absolutely.
Definitely. Great. Well, we're going to go when we come back after the break. Dawn's going to help us out, and she's going to help family members and support, because sometimes family and support think that they're helping. Sometimes they're actually making the situation worse. So we'll be right back after this. IBG Careers is looking for customer service representatives needed to service their customers from home. If you're interested, please apply at www.ibgcareers.com.
Let's work.
I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord that I wake again. I wake again. I pray the Lord that I.
Let's work. Yo, it's go time, showtime, never backing down time. One shot, yo, make it count, yo. Crunch time, shine time, make this moment my time. Get a grip, yo, ready, set, go. We bring the thunder. Bring the thunder. Let's work.
Bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Ayy, coming down like precipitation. I ain't never met a limitation. Hate plotting my elimination. Gotta go to Google for the information. I'm a superstar, so I gotta shine. Top dollar be the bottom line.
Stop. I want it. I got it. I want it. I got it. I want it. I got it. I got it. I want it. I got it. I want it. I got it.
And we are back here on Sisterhood Check-In with my special guest, Dawn. And if you've missed the first section, make sure you go back and watch the beginning where Dawn shared her testimonial about about her battle with depression and things that she did to overcome it. So Dawn, in this last segment, why don't you share with us ways as a family member, as a caregiver, or as a supporter, or even maybe a child, and that you might have children that may be witnessing their parents go through depression, right? What are some suggestions, or what are some things that help you when you were going through it, help you to get through the depression? I know you said you had a strong community of friends, but what are some examples that some of our support systems can do to help us, or if they sense that we're in that mode?
I think the first thing is to don't give up on your family member. My mother noticed, that my personality had changed. I wasn't as outgoing as I had been. And so she continued, to reach out to me, and my children, because the person the person that's been dealing with depression really needs to know that they are loved and they are needed. Because what happens is when you're going through the depression, you feel worthless, right, and you feel like you're not going to be missed, so it's not going to be a big deal. And so when I first started going down in my spiral and was thinking about depression, being depressed and kind of wishing I wasn't here, I remember thinking at that time my youngest daughter was graduating from high school. And so I was like, I can't do this to her, because my mother didn't deserve to bury me. And my daughter didn't deserve to connect her mother's death with her graduation from high school.
Wow.
And so when I couldn't do it for me, I could do it for them. And I needed to learn how to do it for me. But until I learned how to do it for me, I learned how to do it for them, because I knew that it would matter to my mother. I knew that it would matter to my children. I knew that it would matter to my brother and to my friends. I knew it would matter to them. And so I knew that I needed to be there for them. Got a little help at that time, felt, got in a better place, and then kind of fell off. So also encourage, your family member to continue to go down that track of getting the support and, having a therapist and working through whatever the plan is that they have, being able to journal, do those things, and that help them to continue to move forward. Find you some self-care. Figure out what self-care looks like, because what I had to learn was that you can only give from your overflow. That's what you're supposed to give from your overflow. So if your cup is half empty or empty, you can't pour out. You can't continue to pour out, because that's going to really just tear you down. And self-care is not selfish. It's not, and that's not just a little colloquialism or whatever. It's the truth. So you need to figure out what that looks like for you. And so just continue, to love on someone. If you notice that there are obvious changes in behavior, ask them if they're willing to talk, if it's something that's going on that they need to talk about. And just, again, love.
Right.
The word tells us that love covers a multitude of sins. When we talk about the fruit of the spirit and things of that nature, love is the greatest of all things. And so we need to love people unconditionally. and show them that love and that support, and don't be so quick to just give up on individuals. you know um when I look back through my situation, I can clearly say, like the song says, love lifted me.
Mm, mm.
Yep.
Wow. Wow. I think it's, and one other thing I want to add too is not to be pushy. Sometimes you have those family members and that want to help so much that they push and push for you to open up. And sometimes you just have to you have to do like you have to go like this. You have to push, you have to
Yes.
you can't go in trying to shove your way into, because that'll cause them to shut down even more.
Yeah.
It'll cause you to shut down even more. I remember when my late husband died and I was sinking into a depression, and I remember, family members had good intentions. I believe they really had good intentions, wanting to embrace me, wanting to help me, but I had just had my heart broken, you know, and I was trying to put everything into perspective. And when I say put everything into perspective, meaning not that I thought death was strange and that it would never happen one day. Everything was so tragic in how it happened. I just needed a moment to process. And so it was interpreted. I remember my mom feeling like, well, what's wrong? Why you won't let me embrace you? And it wasn't that I didn't want anybody's embrace. I just wanted a moment. And the more they kept pushing, because they love me and they wanted, my mom as the mom wanted to take that hurt from me, and so she wanted to love it off of me, that
Mhm.
grief. She wanted to love the grief off of me, and I just needed that moment. So but when I got that moment and I got out, and one of my girlfriends at the time, she just said, come on, let's go. She put me in the car and she took me out the house away from everybody, and she didn't say a word. She just walked with me. And that's what I needed. I needed a moment to process
Yes.
everything that was happening. And I think that's what we have to do. If you are supporting somebody who is dealing with depression, you have to be able to be sensitive to know when is it time. And that's the thing. We just want to come in and we want to fix people. And we have to sometimes just learn how to just be there. Be available. Being there just simply means being available when they need you, and to what degree that may be. And I just want to just say to those of you that may be watching from and wanting to know and facing depression, you may have lost something. I want to plug this in before this actually dies. You may have lost somebody. You may have lost a loved one. You may be suffering with depression. But I just want you to know that if you feel like you're at the point where you feel like there's,
I can't hear you.
just know that there is support available around you, and that you have to make sure that you are surrounding yourself with people that love you and that care about you. Don't deal with it by yourself, because if you deal with it by yourself, the enemy is going to make sure that he take you out if he can. So make sure that take the time that you need, if you need to process what you're going through, but make sure that you find, even if it's just one person, find somebody that you can be able to relate to, and make sure that, and let them know, be transparent and let them know, I'm not feeling strong today. I'm not, I know I feel like I seem like I got it together, but today is just a day I don't have it together. And it's okay. It's okay to not be, to feel like, today is just one of those days I can't do it by myself. I have those moments. Sometimes, I'll just be like, you know what? I just can't do it today. I can't do it today. And I have gotten to the point where I say, it's okay. It's okay to not be strong today. It's okay to be human today. But what I do is, because I went down that deep, dark hole, I know that if I stay there too long, it can be a deep dark road, and the longer you stay there, the harder it is to come out. So make sure that you are allowing yourself do some, if it's a chemical imbalance, if it's something that's happening in your body, go talk to somebody, go get checked out, because sometimes it is a chemical imbalance. Sometimes it's our diet. All right, let's just be truthful. Sometimes it's our diet. Sometimes we're eating things that's affecting our mood. right? Sometimes we're eating things that, especially we, you know, in the African American community, we're big on sugar. We're eating things, and you know, eating all this stuff that's causing our bodies to become imbalanced. So sometimes the depression or the feeling of feeling down has a lot to do with our diet. I noticed that when I started to change my diet and how I ate, I felt a lot better. I didn't have a lot of those pockets like I did before when it came to chemical imbalances, because when you start eating properly, you're getting rest, that self-care, right? When you're taking care of yourself, you know, when you're going to sleep, getting the amount of sleep that you can, making sure you're taking care of yourself, speaking to yourself in psalms, and, you know, doing things to take care of you. We, especially as mothers, we're good at taking care of our children in the household. We'll take care of everybody. But when it comes to taking care of us, we always tend to put ourselves last. And then when our kids are gone or adults, we're like, we don't know what to do because we're used to caring for other people in our house. But you have to take care of you too. You have to make yourself a priority. You have to make sure that you're taking time out to make sure that you are cared for too. Because if not, your children will grow up, they're going with their life, and you'll be in a place where you don't know what to do or where you are. You won't know whether you're going or coming.
And I even want to tell women who are going through menopause
Yes.
to even be aware
Right.
of their moods and things of that nature, because
Mhm.
our hormones are going while we're going through menopause are just really all over the place, you
Yes.
know, and that can also lead to depression and just even mood swings and things of that nature. So
Mhm.
um just, you know, just watch that, and as a family member, don't be so quick to write anybody off either, you know.
Right.
Like you said, don't be pushy, but let them know that you're available and you're there
Yes.
when they need you, and
Yeah.
not so much like, oh well, I mean, if you don't want to talk to me, then
Right.
right,
Right.
and
Right.
shut the door on them. That's not what you want to do, you
Right.
know. So
Right.
you know,
Absolutely.
and it's so it's easy and difficult, you know, at the same time, because you can't really read a person, you
Mm.
know, so you can't, and everybody who is going through something is not necessarily going through depression, you know.
Right.
So you just kind of, you know, gotta gauge it in a sense, but in
Right.
any situation, just be there for that individual, and let them know that you're there,
Yeah.
even if you're not in their face, you know, so to speak, all the time. So
Yes.
um all I can say is that I thank God for the God that he is,
Yes.
that I thank him for his sovereignty. I
Yes.
thank him for his wisdom. I thank him for
Yes.
his strength. I thank him for his courage. I thank him for helping me to raise my children. I thank him for allowing me to walk in wisdom through my situation to get some assistance. I thank him that you know, he is always there, never forsaken.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like James tells us, trials come to make us stronger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And all of us are going to have trials, and we have different, as long as you live in, you're either going through something, coming out of it, something, or getting ready to go through something. And so all of our life experiences, God is that he's intentionally molding them, you know,
Right.
for our good. And I personally believe that nothing we go through is for ourselves.
Absolutely.
So it's, you know, it's an opportunity to reach back and help someone else. You know, so we can't hold and harbor, you know, everything, because when a person understands that you really understand because you've really been there,
Right.
then it's easier to break through. You
I
know, so God blesses us so that we can be a blessing to others.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Dawn, for just taking time out of your Friday. I know you were on your way back, on your way home from the shop. Thank you so much for just taking the time to share your story. And I'm grateful to God that you did make it through and that you lived to tell your story, because I believe that there's going to be many people that may watch this broadcast, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Instagram or TikTok. Somebody's going to hear your story and be motivated by it. Somebody's going to hear your story and think it may give them one extra day, one extra hour, an extra moment to hold on. And I want you to know that if you're dealing with depression, that God is an ever-present help in the time of need, and I can't, even in my depression, though I had, God may have placed some people around, I can't deny his presence. Really, I think I learned more about God in that moment of my life, in that season of my life, than I could have any other time. And so though it may seem like a really difficult time for me at that time, it was also equally a time where I got to know God and got to really see him as he is. And which is why I believe I am the way I am today. That's why I'm very, I'm really keen on being transparent in my journey. I like to share with people how to get through. I'm really big on helping people understand the journey, because I say it with every broadcast, just like hurt people, heal people can heal people too.
People, definitely. And I'm just glad, so now fast forward, I'm on the other side. So I no longer have to work and do things to raise my children. Now I can kind of focus on me. So, did just went from being an admin and bartender and working in the call center. Like, I've done so many things to support my children. And now, like you said, I'm in a salon. I'm a loctician, natural hair care specialist, and did my sister lock training. And so I work in an all lock shop in Charlotte, North Carolina, Why Not Locks. And we come in, we are taking care of our men and our women with, who have embraced their natural hair and is rocking lock natural hair. And so I never really expected that this is where my journey would lead me to. But now I'm in a place where every day I'm doing something that I enjoy, and I am communicating with the public and developing relationships with my clients. And I just thank God for what he's brought me through and what he's going to continue to lead me to.
Absolutely. Well, guys, you heard it. We thank God for her being able to survive, to be able to share her testimony. And make sure that you join us on. We're going to go ahead and take another commercial break, and we're going to go ahead and end the broadcast. If you are dealing with depression, like I said, make sure that you make somebody aware. You let somebody know. Find somebody that you confide in. You may not. Everybody has at least one person that they can confide in. And if you don't have that one person, God is still there. Mm-hmm. He's an ever-present help. And sometimes he's more of a help than sometimes the people you might depend on. So I believe that when we take the time to realize that he's there, that he shows up. He's an ever-present help in a time of need. And so I don't want you to go through, if you're dealing with it, I don't want you to deal with it alone, because you don't have to. That's what the enemy wants to do. He wants to get you by yourself so that you don't have a support system, so that he can speak to you in your brain and cause you to do things, right? That he'll try to get you to move quick and make decisions and actions towards things so that you're not thinking twice about it. So again, if you're dealing with depression or you're going through something and you need somebody to talk to, make sure you find at least one person and say, hey, I need help. And I believe that God will put somebody there just for you to be able to get through it. So thanks, guys, for watching. Thank you so much. Don't forget to join us on Sunday here with Dinner with the Coaches. Dawn, thank you so much for joining me here at Sisterhood Check-In. I know you've been sitting in that car for a little while, so I know you're hungry, ready to get home.
Well, I appreciate the invitation, and I just thank you for focusing on this evening.
You're welcome. Thank you. And it's always good to see you. I've known you all my life.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely.
It's good to see you're doing well. And let's keep in touch.
Definitely,
Definitely.
definitely.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on Sunday at 7 p.m. here with Dinner with the Coaches. Have a great evening.